I've chosen to do for my independent novel study is The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls. It's like a really good book. It's totally crazy, like everything she goes through in her childhood, and there's just like so many symbols and amazing life lessons she learns, and it's a really good book to discuss. So for my first sentence, there's two first sentences of the book. It starts when she's an adult living in New York, and then it goes back to when she's a kid. And so I think, the one when she's a kid better reflects with the last one. So I've chosen to discuss that. So what she says is, I was on fire, and like she was on fire because she caught herself on fire while trying to cook hot dogs. But this like establishes a really, like, fire is a big symbol throughout the whole book. And it keeps coming, and like literally she's on fire, but symbolically also, like, all the chaos and everything that she goes through just is continuously shown as fire and can be symbolized that way. And throughout the book, the theme of fire keeps coming back, and she really is like fascinated by fire. This is seen like when her dad teaches her to put her hand through the candle wick, and like throwing the match into the toilet, and when they burn down the hotel. And so the whole theme of fire, through the first sentence, it really establishes that theme of destruction and just everything. Like, the family can never, every time something good happens, Rex just like puts more wood on the fire, and it's just a continuous battle for them. So it also really shows like her composed and calm personality. Like, obviously, she's on fire, but she doesn't freak out, she doesn't scream, and so this totally exemplifies that part of her personality, which is really important, because I really don't think she'd be the person she is today. And just like a big quote that reflects that whole theme is when she says, I wondered if fire had been out to get me. I wondered if all fire was related. Like Dad said, all humans were related. If fire that burned me that day while I cooked hot dogs was somehow connected to the fire I'd have flushed down the toilet and the fire burning in the hotel. I didn't have the answers to those questions, but I did know that I lived in a world at any moment could erupt into fire. It was the sort of knowledge that kept you on your toes. And this quote totally exemplifies just how her whole world, Rex is continuously throwing more wood on the fire, and the destruction there. Okay, so the last sentence of the book is totally it totally links back to the first sentence, and they're super similar in the themes and the message they portray, and it really ties the book full circle. It says, a wind picked up, rattling the windows, and the candle flame suddenly shifted, and the candle flame suddenly shifted, dancing along the border between turbulence and order. Her whole life is just the border between turbulence and order, because like she's finally able to find order when she leaves home and becomes like an independent woman for herself. However, even when she's a kid, and like the family does go through some good stuff, but there's always like this border, and as soon as like Rex does something bad, they're into turbulence, and it's totally flip-flopping back and forth the whole time. And just with the candle flames, that goes back to the theme of fire as discussed in the first sentence. And this can also be seen when Jeanette and Brian burn down the shed in their backyard. And she says, I thought Dad would be furious, but he wasn't. He was sort of quiet. We stood on the street watching the flames devour the shack. Dad had an arm around each of us. He said it was an incredible coincidence that he happened to be walking by. Then he pointed to the top of the fire, where the snapping yellow flames dissolved into invisible, shimmery heat that made the desert beyond seem to wear a mirage. Dad told us that zone was known in physics as the boundary between turbulence and order. It's a place where no rules apply, or at least they haven't figured them out yet, he said. You'll all get a little too close to it today. And that quote there totally goes back and ties between, the balance that Jeanette is trying to find the whole story by trying to keep order in the family. However, Rex is constantly throwing wood on the fire and ruining that. Okay, so the next thing to discuss is the 2 questions from the thought book I developed while reading The Glass Castle. So, my first question was, what's the symbolism behind the Glass Castle? Like, why is that the title? Why does it keep coming up? Like, what does it mean? And like, yeah, throughout reading it, my ideas like definitely kind of changed. Like, it seems the whole time like Rex is just like alluding to this glass castle and like what they're going to have. And I think the biggest thing it illustrates his illusion, and just how Rex couldn't face reality, and he brings so much illusion to the family, and yeah, the whole glass castle really symbolizes that. It could also like show lost dreams, because he's planning to build it the whole time, but it never happens. Just like all the things he alludes to is going to be good, and like the family's going to make money, he's going to stop drinking, but they're all lost. None of these good things ever do end up happening. And like, yeah, if you think about it, like a glass castle, it's not that practical. Like, it's glass, you can see right through it, it doesn't make a great home. So that also kind of like looks like it ties back to, if you look at their life, like, or yeah, his illusions, like it all seems kind of like okay, but it's not very practical at all. And my next question was, will Jeanette ever realize like her dad isn't so perfect as he's made out to be? I also had a quote about the glass castle I wanted to share for that. It says, when Dad wasn't telling us about the amazing things he had already done, he was telling us about the wondrous things he was going to do, like build the glass castle. All Dad's engineering skills and mathematical genius were coming together in one special project, a big house he was going to build for us in the desert. So yeah, that further demonstrates that. So when will Jeanette realize her dad isn't as perfect as he's made out to be? And just like throughout the whole book, it kind of like drives me insane, because she never like gets mad at her parents, and she always like thinks they're all doing something right, and it seems like it's hard for her to like. She has this illusion that her parents are so perfect, and I think it comes from like the illusions Rex brings into the family with the whole fake glass castle and everything. So eventually, she does realize her dad isn't so perfect, but this also ties into the theme I'm going to discuss, which is unconditional love. And like, she knows he's not so perfect, however, like, yeah, she just has like faith in him the whole time. So this quote also shows that. He says, "I swear, honey, there are times when I think you're the only one around who still has faith in me." And he goes, "I don't know what I'd do if I ever lost it." I told him that I would never lose faith in him, and I promised myself I never would. So, really, like, I always kind of expected throughout the book she'd have this big raging fit with her parents, run away or something, but like, she does leave, except she never hates her dad. She always thinks he's doing something right. Yeah, so the last thing is the theme discussion, which is the most important part. So the theme I have chosen to discuss is unconditional love, because I think it's really interesting, just her relationship with her parents, and despite everything that her parents put her through, she still loves them, and like, she comes back every time. Yeah, she always comes back to her parents and respects them in the end, no matter what they do. So the other piece that comes with unconditional love is forgiveness, because Jeanette is continuously like forgiving her dad for everything that she goes through. So this is also where the most significant quote comes in, which I have chosen. is we couldn't afford to pay the town's trash collection fee. Our garbage was really piling up. One day Dad told us to dump it in the hole that was for the glass castle. So the glass castle, as I said, like symbolizes this dream and like all their dreams. However, when Rex tells them to put the trash in the glass castle, I think this is a real turning point for Jeanette. Like, she really realizes that Rex is destroying every single one of their dreams, but she still comes back. And even, like, there's so many times throughout the book when Rex does something terrible and Jeanette still comes back to him, and that really shows her unconditional love to him. Like, when she goes to the bar with him, and the guy takes Jeanette with her, and Rex totally could have done something about it to stop it. But he doesn't, and Jet still loves her dad for everything. The other thing is, when she finally leaves to go to New York, he comes and says goodbye to her, and she feels almost sad in her heart to leave her family. And she says, like, I couldn't look back and see him. So that really shows, like, the unconditional love and forgiveness part of the book. That is really important in life, too. The last thing is when her dad dies and she goes and the whole family's really upset, and yeah, not once does her love for her dad, like, waver or falter, really. She always loves him. So I think this can also come back to that last sentence of the border between order and turbulence, because yeah, her relationship with her dad, she does get frustrated, she does get mad, putting it to the turbulent side of things, but she always comes back and finds that order, and always ends up loving her father at the end of the day. And I think, like, yeah, the theme in this, it relates to real life, because there's always going to be people and relationships you have, and no matter what, you love that person and what they do. Like, it doesn't falter how you, like, if you end up loving them at the end of the day or not. And it shows forgiveness as well, because you can forgive people for, like, terrible things they do. So I think that's the biggest theme in the book that comes up, that Jeanette really, like, does a really good job of showing. Yeah, so that is it for my independent novel study.